When we think of multidimensional beings communication, we might picture something like Archangel Michael coming down with luscious blonde hair, having a vision, or having like clear audio and hearing like perfectly cohesive sentences. But all of this can be a little bit of a myth. I'm not saying that these things cannot happen, they do. But notice here that I've said multidimensional beings. I did not use the word spirits. We're not talking about aliens here. We're talking about multidimensional beings. And not to say that these multidimensional beings, they perhaps could be guardian angels, they could be spirits, they could be extraterrestrial beings. But the key word here is really multidimensional beings, because here's the thing. When we start interacting with multidimensional beings, we have to take into consideration that their environment into which these beings and this consciousness reside is entirely different than ours in the three-dimensional world here. So therefore, is when they do take human-like appearances or come and communicate with us directly in a way that makes sense to us humans, a lot of information get lost in translation. So another way to communicate with them is to start navigating, and then we're starting to talk into like alternative state of consciousness, alternate states of consciousness. Exactly. I know we don't need medicine to access these states. So essentially this video, it's what is about. We're going to be covering how do multidimensional beings communicate in a more abstract form. What are the energy exchange? How is that? What's the engineering behind it, the mechanism? Like, how is that even possible? And also how to train our nervous system to access these alternate states of consciousness without any medicine at all whatsoever. In fact, if I've learned anything about using medicine, and I love them, they do work, but at the end of the day, what it taught me is we don't need them. So I'm gonna lay it all out, also a few do's and don'ts, and address perhaps a few concerns you might have. And if you're wondering, like, why would we wanna communicate with multidimensional beings? Well, you know what? Because it's awesome. I highly recommend 1010, absolutely. So my name is Isabelle, and welcome back to the download. So before we jump into the communication form of multidimensional beings' interactions, let's first look at what happens energetically. What are the dynamics? Because there's a little bit of give and take here. There's a bit of a control, if you say, a dial that we can choose to dictate how much of interaction, like what's the depth of interaction we want to have with this energy. So essentially, I think it's like a Venn diagram, or like, you know, when they have like diagrams, sometimes they'll have like a circles and you have another circles, and somehow like they meet and then it creates like a little intersection in the middle with things they have in common. So imagine that your energetic body is like a bubble. You're a self-contained energetic bubble. And then here comes a multidimensional beings in your space who wants to interact with you. So there's an aspect of a bubble coming near you. So at that phase, before you even merge energetically with this being to get the data, you can read on surface level, almost like a book cover. What is this energy? What does it want? Is it benevolent? Is it malevolent? Does it feel like it wants to give me something? Does it feel nourishing to be in this presence? Or does it feel like depleting and it's just weird? Like, who are you? Like, so right there and then we get a sense, a feeling, a sensation, or whether we want to engage with this energy further or not. And if we want to engage with this energy further, here's what we can do. We can either relax our mind and immerse ourselves into their world, and we decide how much into their world we want to immerse ourselves in, or we invite them in and they immerse themselves into our world. And of course it's kind of a in between, but here's the difference between the two is if I immerse myself into a multidimensional world, I can choose to have this experience feeling like I still have my physical body. I'm still very much like I feel my hands and whatnot. And if I see a beings coming walking me and they put their hands on me, I can feel that. I can feel that like I'm generally there. The other way around is I can be in my living room and they're the one who comes. And in all cases, and here's the thing, is the power dynamics that's a little bit different. We are always the most powerful into when we are embodied in the world into which we come from. So what I'm saying here is if I am in my world and there's a multidimensional beings that come in my space and I don't like what they're doing, well, technically speaking, because they're on my side of the fence, if you say, I am more powerful than them in a way that I can just blast them with my solar plexus and they dissipate, they disappear. They're like, well, no, we can't handle this. And that's fine. And the other way around is also true. So if I'm the one who immerse myself into somebody else's world, then technically speaking, energetically, they will be in that space, in that context, more powerful than I am. And not to say that they can hurt me, they can chase me out of there. They have a say into how long I stay in their field, essentially. So yeah, because I've been kicked out of places before because I ask questions. And it's not like they mind me asking questions, it's like what trips them out is when I actually automatically get the answer and they're like, no, you can be here. Okay. So anyway, so that is just to, essentially, I'm sharing this with you to let you know that you're in control at all time within that interaction, to know that you are powerful, that you're the one calling the shot here. If there's something they don't like, yeah, you can stop at any time and say, no, we're done with this. Also, if you're the one, you say, whoa, I love this world, I want to explore it some more. Yeah, if they let you, but if they don't want you there, they're more than, they can kick you out. Can they hurt you? I mean, yeah, they can make you uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, they don't have access to your physical vessel. Your energy is your energy. It's rooted here in your body. Like, again, we are in control of these experiences. And I know I do not let any entity operate. Like, I do not allow entities to come and channels through me. Like, you know, when you see like someone and then they start like they become somebody else, you know, and they start talking. I never do that. This is a no for me. No, you only communicate with me through my crown chakra, and that's it. This physical vessel is not to be habitated by anybody else, never. So this is how energetically the interaction happens. So you actually have two energetic bubbles that comes aware of each other, and then we get to decide, like, and it's not like you talk like a human, it's just all of these things happens organically, really. So what do we talk about in that space and how that communication is like? Well, this is another step into communicating with multidimensional beings, is our ability to really extract information from multidimensional beings is actually connected with our ability to access alternate state of consciousness that is beyond the physical world in a way. Yes, we can have direct interactions with beings that come and maybe we hear like, you know, words in our ears and whatnot, but this is limiting, and here why it's so limiting. So imagine you have a 12-dimensional being coming, wanting to interact with you. His whole consciousness, this perception of the universe, is far superior than yours. Why? Because he's a 12-dimensional being. He has access to 9 more dimensions than you. That is a lot of information. So right there and then, his brain, if he has one, does not even look at the universe the way a human's with a 3-dimensional consciousness would. So now there's 2 things that can happen there. So yeah, he can really translate a little bit of information here in the 3D world, but all of that information really get lost. or we can relax and allow ourselves to access an alternate state of consciousness. And what I mean by that is, just in the previous example where we had like these two bubbles. So let's say I'm Izzy, I'm a human, I feel my hands, my arms and whatnot, and I immerse myself into somebody else's world. But even as immersed in that world, even in the astral planes, I'm still very much a human being. I feel my body energetically in the astral planes as such, like I'm still human. There's an actual way to transcend this. And the way we do this is, well, first you can take medicine and access, but really it's really about relaxing the nervous system and developing techniques to stay calm and collected. Because here's what happens when we start letting go of the sensory perception of having a human physical body, and we start liquefying, or we start experiencing ourselves as just a frequency, our ego, our sense of identity is going to trip out. And when it trips out, it affects our nervous system, and our nervous system becomes triggered, and boom, we come back, we snap out of it. So the way to really access these altered states of consciousness is to learn and develop technique to calm down our nervous system. So when our consciousness starts to really waver from a form and it starts to become a little bit unfamiliar, uncomfortable, we can remain calm and stay in that experience longer. And the more we can train ourselves to stay in that experience longer and longer and longer, then we can start interacting with these beings in a whole other way that's beyond human communication. And here's what happens when I personally access these states. There's different layers to it, in a way that it's almost you can go in different rooms and have different experiences and have different kind of information. On the highest level, when I first started communicating, you're going to start seeing images with your third eye. And the way I was trained is these images are not going to make sense, and they're not supposed to make sense. But at first, our ego, our sense of identity, our mind wants to start constructing and make sense with things and objects that we already know. So my training in that space where I was starting to see something, and when I was like, oh my God, it looks like a giraffe, it would change and morph into something else. But oh no, like now it's a rock. Oh no, it's something else. So essentially I was being trained to let go of trying to see and spot familiar patterns and shapes into the images that floods our third eye. So that's the practice number one. Well, once you learn how to really calm down your nervous system. So the second thing is now, okay, so now I'm in this space and I'm seeing all these forms and these patterns that makes absolutely no sense. Am I going to start right away trying to piece something together? And as soon as we do that, then sometimes it takes us away from this experience. So it's really about embracing this space first, becoming familiar with how it feels like to be surrounded with information that seemingly makes no sense to us in the moment. And you're like, but why would I want to interact with beings? And I don't even understand what I'm seeing. Here's the thing, is they are sharing in that moment so much more information that you can comprehend, that it's going to, what happens after that is it's almost like it's stored in your subconscious, but now your subconscious gonna start deciphering over the next few days, or next few weeks, and sometimes months, all of that interaction, and it's gonna start going through your brainwave, finding dynamics and things that make sense to you. So eventually you get like, oh my God, I get it. And this is the beauty of multidimensional beings interaction, is essentially receiving an energy for, let's say, 5 minutes that seems really incomprehensible, but in the end, it starts unraveling. It's almost like a zip file, and eventually the file unzipped, and you start like either receiving information out of seemingly nowhere, or like information start to stack themselves, and next thing you know, you will be sitting in your living room and you can see information leaving your brain and stacking themselves and forming a whole entire different picture. And to me, the longest like download that I got took a year, because sometimes we don't have all of the information right away in our brain to understand what these beings were saying. So I may be feeling guided to, wow, I really want to read about thermodynamic right now, but I don't know why. And then as I'm reading, there's a piece of information that comes and I'm like, that feels important. And I don't know why. I feel like going it like on the shelf in my brain. And I will never forget that information. I can recall it anytime, but I don't know why. And then as information starts coming, really, then I get with a shelf full of information that seemingly makes no sense, that doesn't seem to be connected with one another. And then when I hear the clicking in my ears, then I know, I was like, oh, it's time to meditate. And as I'm meditating, these beings come back and they're like, yeah, see, when we were telling you this, this is how it relates to that, this is how it relates to this. So it's almost like watching a puzzle being constructed in your mind. And this is how multidimensional beings communicates, really. This is a form. And the reason I'm suggesting this form is it's a lot more elevated. We can receive so much more information. And now if you're like, oh my God, like, are they like messing with your brain or anything like that? No, it's just information. At the end of the day, I get to decide what I want to do with this information. Is it garbage? Is it useful? Is it useless? It's up to me. And also, I'm not someone who drinks the Kool-Aid, and I'm not someone that's easily impressed. And that's really important, like, because although like it's nice to have this interaction with these beings, I don't put anything on a pedestal. I never put anything above myself. So in that way, because I'm not lost into some kind of, when you just fall in love, like, what do they call it? Like the honeymoon phase of, oh my God, because I'm more grounded. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're cool, but who are you really? I don't get played. I just don't. Like, there's a scenario where I woke up in the middle of the night and it was like two beings sitting next to me, and they were like, we need you to prepare a lecture for the University of blah blah blah, and right there and then I was like, who the hell are you to come and just say we need you? You can ask, we would like you, would you be interested in participating, making a lecture? It would be about this, and this is how we think it would help humanity. Like, but you just don't come and bark orders at me. And that's the thing too, like, as we develop relationships with multidimensional beings, I feel we have a responsibility to have a certain degree of, what would I say, like morality, and it takes it within the space to be like, no, I'm not putting up with this. Like, it's still also about boundaries. But personally, I never had an issue because A, I understand that I'm powerful, B, I understand and I'm sensitive to my own energetic vessel. So I know how to close doors. I know how to zap. I know how to protect myself in these situations, if case needs be. But so far, no, there's no. Once you understand how powerful you are and how much control that, and you understand that you're the one in control through all this whole interaction, then it makes it a lot easier. So just to touch back a little bit about accessing these alternate states of consciousness, really, something that I forgot to mention that's important. Let's say, like, to interact, we first need to develop a sensitivity to our own energetic vessel. And meditation is taught, like, this is what needs to do. Like, there's no sense to go do all the ayahuasca in the world if you don't even have a proper meditation practice. That is number one. And that's going to be difficult for some people if you have stress and anxiety or some kind of trauma or emotional things that you haven't dealt with. Because before we can even conceive becoming aware of somebody else's energetic body, we first need to become aware of our own. And here's the thing, I had like people saying like, oh, I can't meditate, it makes me stressed. No, meditation does not make you stressed. It makes us become aware of stress that's already there, but we keep numbing ourselves from it or distract ourselves from it. And that is the first step when you start meditating with the idea that, yeah, I want to communicate with other things, is it's going to be uncomfortable at first. And maybe after 10 minutes, you're like, oh, I need to go back on my phone and distract myself. Pay attention to that, because this is where I would recommend you stay in that space longer and you feel that discomfort. It's always about stepping outside of a comfort zone and regaining emotional mastery, balance, and peace within that space that eventually clears up all of our energetic vessel. And as we do so, yeah, we may still interact with beings, but eventually we have a clear vessel and birds of a feather flocks together. So the more relaxed, happy, harmonious we are, the more likely we're going to be attracting harmonious, peaceful beings. So yes, and the same goes as when we start, like, you know, feeling alternate state of consciousness. Like, it can be uncomfortable at first, but it's our ability to stay there without distracting ourselves, going back to our phones and really just chilling, asking Earth to handle excess energy that we may want to release, and all of these practices that can be incredibly helpful. Yeah, so this is the ins and outs of it. And also I was mentioning there's different rooms, because when we think too of multidimensional spaces, again, like 3D Earth is very different than 3D Mars. So there is like almost like different radio station we can plug in when we talk about multidimensionalities. And yes, there's times it can feel like I do not understand the world I'm in right now, but I also had experiences where I felt everything around me, so much so that I could feel a contraption near my right ear, and the contraption in the fabric of space-time, and I didn't have a vessel at all. Like, I was like everything, and again, no medicine. So as I hear this contraction, and I felt it, this contraction in the fabric of space-time, and it was coming near my ears, and as soon as it reached my ear, there's thunder and lightning that happened. But I had felt it like a good 30 seconds before it even happened, because I was so open and connected to everything. And this is just, I feel, you know, for some of you who wants to explore that, we are completely capable of having these experiences. We don't have to go hide in a jungle for like 15 years and come back, you know, like with the beard down to your ankles or whatnot. Like, this is not, it's just about a little bit every day goes a long way. Slow but steady wins the race. You can start right now. In fact, if you want to develop more and tap more into your energetic vessel and awaken your energetic vessel, I do have a course on my website, and I may actually just post a video there and make it available. What is it called? It's like easy exercises for an overactive mind, because that's another aspect too. When we start meditating, our mind, our ego wants to stay alive, and then we want to quiet the mind. But the exercise that I've developed to help quiet the mind also help us really tap into our more abstract form of brainwaves patterns, as well as awakening our sensitivity to our own energetic vessel. And that's, I guess, the framework for energetic work too. We cannot do anything with energy without first developing a sensitivity to this energy. So again, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. It would help me. It lets me know that you enjoy this type of content and encourage me to create more of it. If you have any questions about anything, please feel free to comment. I can make a video about your question or answer it right there and then. My name is Isabelle. Thank you for watching me, and enjoy the rest of your day.